Hi everyone, this is Lulu from As You Wish Pottery, and in this video we're going to be painting this super sweet chocolate covered strawberry dish. Remember that all the steps are on the lesson plan, so I'm just going to follow along what's listed on there. So I suggest that you grab that little sheet, get all your supplies ready before we get started painting. Alright, let's get started. So we're going to start by using a pencil to sketch the inner circle of the dish, separating the inner circle from the outer part of the dish. This will just make it easier for us when it comes to painting later on. So all I did is just grab the pencil and kind of trace that circle that's right there. And then once that's done, I poured a little bit of peach fuzz, onto my paint palette. And this is that light pink color. And I'm going to paint starting from that circle towards the outer part of the dish. So as you see, I'm just going to start off using that circle as my guide. And I'm just using my round brush. You could use your medium round or square. I have both of them to show you that they're both the same brush pretty much. Just one of them is square and one of them is round, but it really doesn't matter when we're painting. Another thing I suggest is that you make sure that you paint the area where the strawberries will be painted later on. So as you see right now, I'm leaving this space in the center of that oval alone, but I'm making sure that the spaces near them is covered, just so that way there's no gaps and there's no paint missing. So at this point, I'm doing about 1 to 2 coats of that peach fuzz on from the circle towards the outer part. Then I'm going to dip the same brush I'm using, but this time I'm going to use Simply Cinnamon. And with the Simply Cinnamon, I'm just painting the edge of the dish right at the rim of the dish itself. And then I'm going to bring that Simply Cinnamon towards the peach fuzz. And then once I have a good coverage there, I'm going to blend both of those colors up. And the way I do that is just by stacking the colors towards each other. So I brush the Simply Cinnamon towards the peach fuzz, and then once I'm good and satisfied with that, I'm going to rinse off my brush and I'm going to dip it back into my peach fuzz. And now I'm going to overlap some of that peach onto the Simply Cinnamon just to create a little bit of a balance between the darker color and the lighter color. Remember that we're going to be painting strawberries inside these little oval spaces, so it's totally okay to leave them unpainted, but just make sure that you cover the areas around them as best as you can, so that way we just avoid any gaps and we can make sure that everything's painted all the way through. Right, so next we're going to paint the strawberries. So I'm going to use some Rockin' Red and the detail brush to create the shapes of my strawberries, and then I will fill them in later. But I suggest if you don't feel comfortable just going straight onto painting, you can use the pencil and sketch out the shape. I've done a lot of these, so I already know the shape by heart. Also, it's a strawberry. You can't really draw it wrong, right? You can't paint it wrong. So feel free to use a pencil if you'd rather, but if not, you can just use the detail brush and then just get your shape kind of settled and ready before we fill in the rest. So as you see, I'm just dipping my brush in plenty of paint to make sure that I'm able to complete either half of that oval circle or half of that oval or the whole thing if I can. They're very messy lines. They do not have to be perfect whatsoever. There's no difference between the weight of them either. I'm just trying to make sure that the edge itself is kind of already there for me, so that way I can messily paint the inside and not have to worry about my shapes changing. It's just easier for me to start a shape with the detail brush and then fill it in later. But if you feel like you don't need to do this part, you can also just grab your medium brush and just paint the shape itself. I'm just going to finish all of my shapes first, all of my outlines first, and then I will switch on to my medium brush and then do about 2 coats of the Rockin' Red inside all the strawberries, and you'll see that coming up next. And here we have it. We're doing about 2 coats of that Rockin' Red on the inside of the strawberries. Something I like to do is I like to do my first coat first. So I go all the way around and just do 1 coat. And then I start off from the first strawberry I painted and paint its second coat after that. So just go around, do 1 coat. As you see, you can already tell the first one I filled in is already drying. So that'll make it so the second coat lands on it pretty well and it sticks pretty well. And I don't have to worry about covering anything else. Okay, so for the next step, we're going to paint the circle inside of our dish. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some double mint and some polar bear. And I'm going to start off with my medium brush again. If you want to use your round brush, just make sure, or whichever brush you have that you've been using, make sure that you clean it really well, just because we don't want the red and the mint to mix, okay? So the way I'm starting this is just by painting the center circle. I'm starting on the edge of the circle itself first, and I'm using some double mint to start off with the darker color, and then I dip the same brush into polar bear and I fill in the rest of the circle. So as you saw, I started off with the darker, I got a nice circle shape, and then I dipped the same brush straight onto the polar bear white, and I just went in from there and just finished that circle itself. Next, we're going to switch onto the detail brush, and with the detail brush and double mint, we're just going to paint the little stems above all the strawberries. So as you see, they're just like 3 little brush strokes, and I just pretty much start off from the outer part of the strawberry, and then I pull in, and I have them connect all 3, so that way it looks like a cute little whimsical topper. So you're more than welcome to go about them however you feel the most comfortable. I just found this to be the easiest way. Since there's a little bit of a divot, everything just kind of falls into place as I'm brushing it. Alright, so next we're going to use a Q-tip, or you could use the back eraser of a new pencil, and we're going to paint Simply Cinnamon dots on the edge of the inner circle, right where the mint and the peach will meet. So as you see right here, right where that center circle ends, we're going to just paint little dots. I like to do 2 dots and then dip my pencil back into the paint, just so that way I can ensure that all the dots have the same weight and the same amount of paint on them. Another thing is I like to use the back of pencil erasers, or the back of a pencil, just because I like the shape better, but you're more than welcome to use Q-tips, whatever's easiest for you. Right, so next I'm going to use the medium brush or the detail brush, and I'm going to paint the lower half of every other strawberry with 2 coats of Simply Cinnamon. This is what gives that dark chocolate covered look to all the strawberries, and as you see, I'm doing about 2 coats of Simply Cinnamon, and I'm doing it the same way I painted all my strawberries. Remember, so I do 1 coat first, I paint all of them with 1 coat to start with, and then I go back through and give them that 2nd coat after I've allowed for a couple minutes to dry, and I'd ensure that all the ones that I need to have painted are painted. And remember, we're only doing every other strawberry, so it's not all of them, just every other one, leave 1 unpainted. Right, so next we're going to work on the other strawberries, and what we're going to do with that is we're going to use our detail brush and polar bear, and we're going to paint a heart shape on the inside of the strawberry. I like to start it right at the middle of the strawberry, and then I pull my brush towards the end of the strawberry, towards the bottom, and then I adjust the size and the shape of that heart. I do it that way. Just to start, I start off with simple lines and then kind of in the shape of a V, and then I fatten them up as I'm going. And remember that polar bear is the lightest color, so we're doing the detail brush, and we're going to make sure that we do about 2 coats of that polar bear on all those hearts, just so that we can make sure that there's a difference between the red and the white. When it's fired, it'll look brighter and it'll look nicer that way. So I suggest, like, go through, create all your shapes first, make sure that they're well coated, and then maybe give them another coat. All right, once we're done with our chocolate or white chocolate covered strawberries, we're gonna move on to the dark chocolate strawberries, and we're gonna add a little zigzag of polar bear with the tip of the detail brush. And I'm just doing this kind of messily. They don't have to be perfect whatsoever. I'm making sure that the zigzags feel a little bit organic. So what I'm just doing is just kind of lazily moving my wrist right to left, left to right. And there's some gaps that are gonna naturally happen, and that's totally okay. I just filled those gaps with a little dot. That just adds a little bit of that kind of effect of the white chocolate covered strawberries. So feel free to go about this however you like and whatever you think looks best. All right, so next we're gonna trace the lettering on the center. We're gonna start off by doing that with the traceable image on our lesson plan. We're gonna trace that over tissue paper with a pencil. Then we're gonna transfer over the image on the tissue paper onto our plate or onto our dish, and we're gonna follow our lines using the marker. Remember that the marker disappears, so it's okay if any mistakes happen. This is just for us to know where we're gonna be painting later on. All right, so next we're gonna use our detail brush and we're gonna use Black Lab to go over our lettering. Just know I like to add a couple droplets of water to my Black Lab. Sometimes I feel like it's a little too thick for me. Also, when it comes to lettering, I like to make sure that my paint has a nice ink consistency. So what I like to do is just add a couple droplets. Make sure that you mix that in really well with your paint so that way there's no blobs and no accidents happen. And then once you have a really nice consistency, you're more than welcome to follow along your letters. Just also remember you can practice the lettering if you wanted to on the lesson plan, on that traceable image. It's right there on the lesson plan itself. So you're more than welcome to grab your brush and kind of practice on there first before doing it on the plate, just so that way you know kind of how your brush needs to move, how you need to hold your brush, that kind of thing. And once you feel confident, once you've practiced and you feel confident, go ahead and paint it onto the dish itself. Another tip when it comes to lettering, just make sure that you start off with thinner lines. So what that means is do not press your brush too hard onto the pottery just yet. Just start off thin, start off with a light hand, and then if you feel like you need to add more weight to your lines, you can do that later on. My thing is that I like to work one letter at a time, and then once I have all my letters in a good shape or a good form, I take a step back, I look at the whole word, and then if I need to adjust anything, I will go and adjust it after I've finished each letter individually. All right, once we're done with the lettering, we're going to use the detail brush and Black Lab to outline and detail all the strawberries, the chocolate, and add any accents we want to add. I would highly suggest that you look at the image on the lesson plan if this makes it easier for you to follow along, as well as another tip I found is that it's easier, or it was easier for me, to paint all the strawberries first. So like do all the strawberries, paint their little seeds, outline the chocolate parts and all that fun stuff before I did all the stems. So you'll see that I'm going to do all of the chocolate first, all the strawberries and all that, and then I'll do the stems once I'm done with everything in the inner oval part. So here I'm working on my last strawberry, and I'm going to move on to painting all the little strawberry stems. And just keep in mind that all the strawberries have, or the little stems have, a little curly cue to them. I like to break that down whenever I'm painting, so you'll see that I'll start the shape, and then midway on the curl I'll stop, and then I'll start right where my brush ended. This just helps to not have to have the pressure of finishing a whole stroke as you're going, and since you have to kind of curve in a weird way, I try to keep it simple, and I try to break it down so that way my hand can still achieve the effect without causing me too much trouble or too much anxiety. So I suggest that you take it slowly, break it down, go as far as you can go, and then once you're done, or once you've reached that end, go ahead and start it right where you ended. So you see here, literally that's what I did. I just finished the stroke as far as I could, and then I picked right up where I ended and completed it all the way to the end. And remember, thin lines are the best. It'll make it easier for you to thicken up as you go. It'll also ensure that if you do have any accidents or anything like that, that you have plenty of room to fix them, as well as it's just easier for me and a little bit less chaotic, less messy if I just start off with a thinner line and I thicken it up as I need to, or as I feel the need to do so. So I suggest you do the same. Be light-handed when you're doing your strokes, and if you need to thicken it up, you can do it. Alright, so next we're going to use the medium brush to paint some quick dashes on the outer rim with black lab. We're just going to do that by pressing the bristles to the edge of the dish, leaving a gap in between each of the little dashes. So as you see, I just literally dip my brush into my paint, tap it onto that edge, and then move on and do another one, and keep going until the whole rim is filled. Once done with the dashes, we're just going to splatter the background of our dish just by pressing or pulling the bristles of the brush back and kind of letting the paint go wherever it wants to go. This is just an easy and quick way to splatter your piece. And lastly, I'm going to use my detail brush, and I'm going to fill in the heart in the center of the lettering. And this is just inside the line, so try to stay within that as much as possible. And once you're done, that's it. Alright, so here's a little close-up of our dish, all done and looking perfect and ready to go to the kiln. Remember, you can sign your name on the bottom of the dish using any bright color and the detail brush. And here's a little close-up of it fired. Thank you again so much for painting with me. Have a great day, and bye-bye.